On one hand, it's sad that they didn't have the time to slit this man's throat after getting an amazing sneak attack in from Javi, because most likely a lot of shit would have been a lot easier for them going forward. But on the other hand, we literally had all three of them, Javi, Bisco, Milo, they're all kind of on death's doorstep in different ways. There really wasn't time to finish the job if you wanted to get out of there alive. So, but granted, in the fact that I think he's such an amazing antagonist, him surviving makes the future episodes that much more compelling, but also kind of covering their tracks on why we didn't just simply kill him right then and there, and then try to struggle to find a new antagonist to take his place, sort of a thing. But I will say, this episode, last week gave me death flags for everyone. I said that everyone feels like they could die in their own way. Certain people I thought had more of a chance to die than others, and truthfully, Milo, of all the characters, I thought would have been least likely to die. And here's the thing, there's like a 20-second preview of the I Love You episode is what it's titled, and we see Milo in that preview, but that preview didn't look like normal reality. That almost looked like a dream sequence in my opinion. So I don't know if he will die. I would say this episode makes you want to think he will, and you'd say, okay, I think we're still only on like the first novel of this show, right, in terms of the adaptation. So like, I've never seen light novel covers. I have no idea of where it goes from here, but I can tell that the anime makes us want to believe that he is going to die there, and holy shit, if that's the case, where do you go from there after really establishing that these two would kind of have like a bromance going on? But I will say, should he survive, that's not an issue either, but they're kind of like setting it up as there's two branches to go down. Bisco has to live with the guilt of not being able to save him, and we introduce new characters and we build on this story and the teachings that Milo taught him. Or two, he survives and then we go with where we have been going with this story in general. Either one of those will work in my opinion, but if this episode needed to raise the tensions and stakes, it did so with grace. This episode was without doubt the strongest episode in my opinion. It was a standoff that flexed each character and how far they've come, and really pushed their backs against a wall while explaining so much information. Very early on, my idea of why the government seemed so shady is that ultimately population control in that way, because, you want to make money, you want to control the people, and why wouldn't you want to cure something that ultimately controls the people? And the idea that, simply put, they don't want someone who's able to kind of cure everyone, because then at that point there's no fear, there's no money to be made, and that's something that already conspiracy theories in our own world, right? About whether that happens and things like that. And I think for this world, given what we've seen, there's not so many different diseases where, you cure one disease in our world and they can start working on another cure with other diseases, right? Unlike here, it seems like this mushroom disease, the rust-eating disease, is the one thing that you can really population control with. So it actually explains a whole lot, and I think it's a grounded reason on why someone's that scummy without going like super overboard world domination villain mode, which we've seen so many times in anime, right? But to see Milo of all characters like flex what he can do both as a doctor but also a mushroom keeper was great, because at first when he's showing him how to make the true cure, right, he's actually doing something to just knock them out and control them, and it was just so cool to see, and how quickly, unfortunately, it flipped around on its head. I think one of the things that has been great with the mechanics of this world is the mushrooms and how, far they push it. We start the show off with them basically using them to just launch people into the air. We got one of those in this episode where he actually gets launched into the ceiling, which the amount of force, it must have felt like a rhino hit him into the wall, given the fact that it's such a close proximity and this giant mushroom launches him into the ceiling. But the idea of mind control, this puppetry, is really interesting. Basically you shoot them, kind of puts a chip in their head, and you can basically control them with your thoughts. It's something grounded both in the mechanics / technology we can already kind of see in our own world, and it was really cool to see how, and also frightening obviously, how far he was pushing Milo into doing things that he would never want to do. The best part is how he basically refused up until the final moments. He knew damn well not telling him, basically just going with the flow there, he was going to die, but the fact that he had such a poker face standing ready to be shot in the head, not begging for his life, but just apologizing in his own internal psyche that he wouldn't be able to keep his promises, as then you switch it around. And I've seen so many moves in this show and other anime where a character survived a near-death blow, and I was like, how in the actual hell did they manage that? But catching an arrow with his teeth to then launching it back at the fool has to be one of the coolest, craziest, and batshit things I've ever seen in anime. And I think out of every character we've seen, if one character was going to do it, it would have to be Bisco himself. But I'm glad that Jabi also had a reason in this episode, because even though we know he's probably, honestly, up until this point, he felt like the one who was closest to dying, and I think, granted, he does look very down, and I think we're going to be building up to him dying pretty soon. That's at least my impression. Milo is a coin toss of 50-50 if they're going to introduce new characters to replace him, or they're going to find a way to save him. Either way, the idea of Jabi coming in, saving the sister, and then basically being their reason for escaping, I mean, is great because he's been such a mentor role for honestly both of them, it kind of feels like. And the fact that he seemingly got trapped at the end there, I mean, after everything that's happened, I mean, we already saw a taste of the torturing on the TV of what was happening with the sister. Imagining what could happen to this frail man at this point, even though he's a badass, even though he's a troll, pretending to eat a rat in his cell and then using some concoction to burn the locking and escape. He is, frail. He is, even though he's still a badass, he still is frail, and one wrong torture move and he's not going to last on that TV like the sister did, right? So, I don't know. This episode, and especially with last week, they want us to believe no one is safe. And even though everyone is currently alive, there's reasons for that to be there. Like, I'm not sure if people are going to get mad of the fact that the antagonist got away, basically, because, killing him right then and there would be the key, but we see his reinforcements in this episode, like, basically sticking around if you want to also save your skin, and also, you're the only people who know of the cure, valuing your life over taking his life and potentially getting caught. I mean, they need to get this cure out there, and unfortunately, there wasn't enough time, in my opinion anyway. Maybe people will disagree, maybe people will agree. I just know the anime community, in terms of moments like these, I've seen it enough after covering so many shows over the years, that these moments I know can be controversial, so I'm just covering my tracks just in case I get people in the comments asking why I didn't find it an issue. And then other times people are like, no, everyone actually agreed, but you never quite know, right? But I absolutely love just seeing the escalation and the tension, and how, if this is a death scene, it's probably one of the most beautiful ones I've seen in some time, given the fact that the person who seemingly was being carried now is doing the carrying, and to see a crying face of Bisco, a character who I never thought I would see cry, at least in season 1. Like, we got season 2, sure, I mean, not something on my mind, but I could expect that if I saw it eventually pop up. But to see what seemingly is being presented as a death scene is just so crazy to me. And I love how they have two equally memorable options, either letting Milo survive or letting him die. Either one of those will work and not really feel like an ass pull or one path seems stronger than the other. I love the character, so of course I hope he survives, but if not, there's definitely a wild possibility in the future, and if he survives this, I mean, guaranteed, Jabi's probably not making it. If they all do, holy shit, they must have 9 lives like the standard cat does. But overall, very, very strong episode, memorable, emotional, impactful, and downright terrifying at times. But thoughts, feelings, if you have any, theories, if you got any, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.